how a computer works? Well, I'm gonna show you. Come with me. So we're gonna rapid fire through all of these different operations, and this is pretty much what your computer operates on. You can use all of these in combination with each other to make things like that adder over there, which can literally do addition. It's really cool. Alright. So here we have an AND gate. So if it has one input on, it doesn't output anything. But if it has two inputs on, it'll output. Alright, here we have an OR gate. If either of these are on, it will output. Alright, here we have a NOT gate. You may notice we only have one input. That's because you don't need more than one. So this literally just inverts the signal. So if there's no input, it'll output 1. If there is an input, it'll output 0. Alright, next we have an XOR, which is exclusively OR. So if it has one input, it'll activate, but if it has two, it won't. You can also use this as a kind of toggleable NOT gate by doing this. So if you turn one of these on, it'll invert the other. Now, I'll talk more about this later in future episodes, but just keep that in mind. Alright, toggle gate. In actual computation, you would have like a flip-flop, but in YEEPS, we're lucky enough to just have a toggle block. So you press it and it sustains the signal until you press it again. Pretty useful. And here, you might have not seen this a lot, but this is a latch. Basically, this is an SR latch. So you press this, and it will never turn on unless it is reset with that. Now you also have the D latch, but you don't really need it in a lot of cases. I much prefer that. Okay, so now that we've got this part over and done with, we can talk about binary. Alright, the next topic of this video is binary. I have heard of the word before, but you don't really know what it means, and it's actually quite simple. It works exactly like the decimal way of counting, but just with ones and zeros. Let me show you. Okay. So 1 in binary is exactly the same. 1. When you go to 2, you do it like this. But why? Okay, let me explain it to you. So, in the decimal way of counting, which is the way of counting that you're used to, when a number exceeds 9, you carry to the next spot, and so say you have a number that exceeds 9 in the ones column, you then carry over to the tens column and reset the ones column. That's exactly how it works in binary, except instead of numbers from 0 to 9, you're working with numbers from 0 to 1. So if in one column a number exceeds 1, we just carry over to the next column and reset the previous one. So let me show you. So here we have 1, but then we want to carry over to the next one, but it's going to exceed 1. So we reset this one and we activate this one. Then we have 2 in binary. Alright, that makes sense. Now, if we want to do 3, we wouldn't put this. We would actually put this. That's because we still have an empty decimal place here. And we can just put 1 here, and this is 3. Okay, to put this into perspective, when to go to 11, you wouldn't carry over to the next decimal place and go straight to 100, no. You would fill in the 1 spot because it's empty. Same thing here. So this is 3. With this new knowledge, if we want to go to 4, we would have to reset these two decimal places and go to 4. Alright, then if we want to go to 5, we go to the smallest decimal place and activate this one. So this is 5. 101 is 5. And then if we want to do 6, we'll just activate this, and now we have 1, 1, 1, which is 6. Alright. That makes sense, right? The next part is bit shifting. I'm gonna go over this briefly because we won't need this until like the 3rd or 4th episode. So let me explain it to you. So when you shift to the left, you multiply by 2, and when you shift to the right, you divide by 2. So let me show you. So here we have 1, and if we shift it 1 to the left, so we transition this signal over to here, it becomes 2, which is 2 times more than 1. And then if we shift it again here, it becomes 4. And then we can shift it again to make 8, 16, and you get the gist. But if we shift it the other way, so we go from 8 to 4, and we shift to the right, we just went from 8 to 4, so we divided by 2. Alright. Does that make sense? Good. That's pretty much all you need to know about binary, and please don't try to memorize it, because in 8-bit binary, which is the type of computer we're going to be making, an 8-bit computer, we're going to get numbers all the way up to 256, and they can get confusing really quick. Okay. Sorry for that cut, but an 8-bit binary system that is unsigned, I'll talk about signs later, but one that is unsigned can express numbers from 0 to 255. So, sorry. There's 256 possible numbers. So, basically, this is how computers store information. Now, I'll go over one more thing before this video ends, because it is getting quite long. I'll go over what you can actually do with these. So, this right here is my binary adder / subtractor. If we now so with these, you could do some pretty cool stuff. So, this is a really simple circuit that can literally do addition. Look, all it has is XOR gates and AND gates, and just some basic binary. It just automates, this adder basically just automates what I showed you over here. So, that's pretty cool, and obviously it works, so we can do 1 plus 1 equals 2, 1 plus 2 equals 3, and all that stuff. It can even do subtraction. So we can do 2 minus 1 is 1. And say 4 minus 2 is 2. So, and then if this video gets, let's say, 10 likes, I'll continue the series, and I'll show you how to make an adder and subtractor, and how to merge them into an amalgamation like this one. But for now,